What up? What up? What up? Welcome to the Hot Button Sports Show and another week of college football is in the history books. Did I say another week? No, another eventful week in college football is officially behind us. I'm your host, Isaac Lane. Once again, welcome to the Hot Button Sports Show. And before we officially get into this week's video, do me a favor, hit that like button and also consider subscribing so you get notified every time the Hot Button drops a video. There was some shaking up taking place. There was a shaking that took place in the college football ranks. We had some teams to make an entrance and to make an exit out of the Hot Buttons top 5 as well as the Hot Buttons top 10. Down goes Ohio State. Down goes Iowa State. Texas A&M looked shaky. It's college football. This is why we watch the game. And in this video, I'm going to introduce my top 10 after week 2. You see it on the screen. This is the top 10 after week number 2. Now, there are some things that we have to get into, some things that we got to discuss. And I want to start here. I want us to start by talking about who's out of the top 5 that was previously in the Hot Buttons top 5. Once again, this is not the AP's top 10, top 5. This is Hot Buttons top 10, top 5. Obviously, there's some similarities, of course, but there are definitely some differences. I want you to know that this top 10, this top 5, this list is not biased. If it was biased, then the Florida State Seminoles will be ranked number 1. We avoid all kind of politics. We only factor in what happened last year when we are assessing our preseason polls. But throughout the season, we go week by week. It is what have you done for me lately? I am very high on strength of schedule, and I am very high on, what have you done for me? In other words, just because you were number 1 this week does not mean you're going to necessarily be number 1 on next week. So just how you know, just how I'm kind of putting this together, leave a chat in the comments. As always, I always get back to every single person who drops a comment, and we can chat whether you agree or whether you disagree. Thank you for joining the Hot Button Sports Show. All right, let's get into it. Who's out of the top 5 that was previously in the Hot Buttons top 5 on last week? Number 1, Texas A&M. Texas A&M is out of the top 5. Why is Texas A&M out of your top 5, Isaac? They won their football game. Doesn't that count for something? Yeah, that counts for something. They're not out of the top 10, but they're definitely out of my top 5. You can't struggle with Colorado. And you represent the SEC, who some SEC fanboys and fangirls just think that the SEC is the greatest conference known to man, when in my opinion, there's only about 3 teams that are consistently competitive in the SEC conference. You just happen to have a team called Alabama who wins championship after championship because of the great one, Nick Saban. But this SEC behemoth produced a team called Texas A&M, and Texas A&M only beat Colorado, an unranked Pac-12 team, only beat Colorado by 3 points, 10-7. And they scored late in the game that touchdown to seal the deal. And when we're talking about ranked opponents and unranked opponents, oftentimes in these close games, it comes down to coaching and who can avoid making mistakes. And when it counted the most, Texas A&M was able to make plays, but you can't stay in the top 5. Especially when you have the likes of Georgia, Alabama, Clemson. You can't stay in the top 5 and you struggle against Colorado. If you struggled against Colorado, I'm not sure you're even going to come close to an SEC championship trip. So, yeah, they're out of the top 5. Who else is out of the top 5? The Ohio State University is out of the top 5. And listen, I know a lot of people take pleasure in giving Ohio State the boot. I do not take pleasure. I do not glory in giving Ohio State an early exit out of the top 5. I do not take glory in that. And I don't take glory in it. I don't take glory in it because I actually like Ohio State. But for the past 2 weeks, Ohio State has been teeter-tottering, right? They struggled against Minnesota, had a late rally. They struggled against Oregon, and Oregon wasn't even at their full strength and potential, especially defensively. And they were able to give Ohio State an early top 5, maybe even top 10, we'll see in a minute, exit in the polls. They cannot survive. I believe Oregon was ranked number 12. Oregon was ranked number 12, and they are out of there. Ohio State is out of the top 5. Let me know in the comments if you still have Ohio State in your top 5. All right, that's who's out of the top 5. Who's in the top 5? Drum roll, please. You see it on the screen. Iowa, the Iowa Hawkeyes are in the top 5. In fact, they are ranked number 3 according to the Hot Buttons top 10. Now, some people are going to look at me crazy when I put them in my top 10. In my top 5, I'm sorry. Specifically, number 3. Let me give you my reasonings why. Did you know that Iowa is the only team in the top 10, the only team in the top 15, and I believe the only team in the top 25 that has played back-to-back ranked opponents and won? Pause. Iowa is the only squad that has played back-to-back ranked opponents and won. All right. I believe Iowa State was ranked 7, I believe, or 8, I believe, and Indiana was ranked number 17. They played back-to-back ranked opponents and won, and I love the way they won it. They won it. Offense did decent, but they won it on the back of their defense, specifically those defensive backs. 1 week it was Riley Moss in week 1 against Indiana with 2 interceptions and 2 pick sixes. And this week, week 2, it was Matt Hankins. Matt Hankins, who had 2 interceptions, their safety, number 33 and number 8. I love the way Iowa plays football. They are the only team in the top 10 who can boast and say, we came out unscathed. We came out without a blemish on our record after going back-to-back weeks playing ranked opponents. After 2 weeks, no cupcakes. They are the number 3 team in the country. Put some respect on the Iowa Hawkeyes name. Who else is in the top 5? Of course, Oregon is in the top 5. Oregon is ranked right at number 5. They are ranked right at number 5. What else are you ranked? After you take down Ohio State. Some people have Ohio State as the second best team. Some people have them as the third, as the fourth. They take them down. They do it in epic fashion. What a way to put a stop to that quarterback on those final two drives. Hats off to their safety, McKinley, for coming up big time with that interception. So here is your top 5. Here's the Hot Buttons top 5. And I believe this is about as accurate as you can get after assessing week 2. The University of Georgia, Alabama, Iowa, Clemson, and Oregon. Once again, Georgia, Alabama, Iowa, Clemson, Georgia. That's your top 5. All right, what are some changes in the top 10? Well, Texas A&M got their exit out of the top 5, but they remain in the top 10 because at the end of the day, they did win. So they are in the top 10, and they didn't play Tulane. They played a team that was better than Florida State, i.e. Notre Dame. They didn't struggle against Toledo, Notre Dame. So I have them number 6. Oh, Oklahoma slides. You don't get any brownie points for that cupcake you just murdered. Oklahoma slides to number 8. Penn State and Florida stays at 9 and 10, with Florida having an opportunity to make a splash if they can pull off the upset against Alabama. And Alabama will finally have their first test of the season this Saturday, this weekend, when they play the Florida Gators. Notre Dame is not in the top 10. Notre Dame is on the outskirts looking in. Now, as we round out this video, I believe that I need to one more time justify University of Georgia being ranked number 1. University of Georgia proves their case for being ranked number 1 after the first 2 weeks, after what we saw from week 2, for 2 reasons. Number 1, I believe that the University of Alabama Birmingham is a better team than Mercer. Alabama beat Mercer, whoop-de-doo. Georgia beat University of Alabama Birmingham, whoop-de-doo. But I think you ask anybody in the country, they'll tell you UAB is better than Mercer. That's 1. Number 2, and this not only justifies Georgia being ranked number 1, but even more, it justifies Alabama, in my opinion, being the second best team in the country based on the first 2 weeks of the season. Get your panties out of a bunch. Just simply based on the first 2 weeks of the season. And that's because Miami sucks. Miami, that you don't get no cool points for putting 40 points on Miami. Miami almost lost to Appalachian State, for crying out loud. Pause. Miami almost lost to Appalachian State. And you want me to be impressed. And dare I say, the majority of the country wants me to be more impressed with Alabama manhandling Miami than I am with Georgia shutting out Clemson? Nah, I'm sorry. Won't do it. Can't do it. Will never do it. Georgia is the number 1 team in the country. The U barely survives Appalachian State, which justifies Alabama's number 2 ranking. Although they will have a chance, they will have an opportunity to climb and maybe even replace Georgia if they can put on the same performance they put on against Miami, against the University of Florida this weekend. Listen, y'all comment, y'all let me know how y'all feel about this top 10. Thanks for joining me. Always remember, subscribe so you can get notified the next time the Hot Button family drops a video. I'll holla at you.